Warm welcome again, Chris, and obviously this is not my first time in Bermuda, as a couple of you in this room might know. I think you kind of know you've been here too many times when the customs officer called you by your first name. My role this morning is to talk briefly about, Microsoft, talk about the industry that we're in, the technology industry, give you some ideas of the trends that we're seeing happening that's going to affect all of us, whether we're in the technology business, whether we're in the insurance business, whether we're in whatever business we are. We all know in this room the technology is going to affect it. So it's very essential that we start looking at some of the emerging trends in technology in order to help us plan for what's coming next. It's very interesting when you look at people who have been in this technology business for a while, and they said, most of us, I did my degree, some number of years ago, and nothing I learned at that time in computer science applies anymore except for some basic stuff. So we've got to agree that technology is changing, and therefore it's going to affect our business as fast as it is possible. So if my mouse works here, so when we as a company, Microsoft, look at some of the things that are happening with technology, so this is what we see. Let's talk about some things on this chart. Machine learning. This is the ability of algorithms to be input into data to be put into algorithms, user input data, and that this business decisions or decisions are being made based on what you enter. So very compute-heavy decisions. I can give you examples, maybe something like doing searches and Bing, Google, those kinds of things. Voice recognition software, we all use things like Siri and stuff on the Apple. Those are high definition things that are using machine learning to understand our languages or variances in language, to understand what it's going to give us. And we all know the technology is not perfect yet. We've all had those kinds of people tell us, we don't understand what you're saying, or give you crazy responses to whatever you ask the machine. So machine learning is that we're starting to see where machines are learning as they go along and being able to produce business decisions for us. Natural interaction, human beings, all of us in this room grew up with computer keyboards and mouse to interact with the computer. That certainly isn't going to be the future for technology. The technology is going to be built around touch and voice. So that people who are designing applications, people who are building things today, have got to start thinking about how you're going to do touch and voice as that processing technology becomes more popular. Ubiquitous connectivity. There's connectivity everywhere. We're all getting to the stage where we expect to be computed with our computers, telephones, our home equipment to the internet, and we expect instantaneous response when we walk in. I walked into this conference room this morning, and the first thing I asked the Ignition team is, what's the password? I expected it to be free, but hey, this is buoy, right? But that's the thing, we're expecting connectivity wherever we go. Social computing, I don't have to tell you about that. Everybody here is on IHateFacebook.com, right? Good. So everything has been built around social computing, and you know that's a trend. Let me give you an interesting statistic. Everybody here is familiar with a music star, Rihanna? Rihanna has 60 million people following her on Twitter. Think about the power she holds in her hands if she says, I like a product. 30 million are going to follow her. 15 million people are going to say, I want to like that product also. Or 60 million. 60 million is almost the population of the UK. Let me talk about data explosion. Every device that we have in the industry now, every smart device is generating data. We have more data today than we've ever had in the world. The IDC estimates that we have 2.7, 2.8 zettabytes of information. Anybody know what's a zettabyte? Billion terabytes. It's expected by the year 2015 we will have 8 to 10 zettabytes. And now they've already prepared the next term for us, which is called a yottabyte. So we in technology, we like to introduce terms all the time just to keep you confused. But the next term that's coming is called a yottabyte. Consumerization of IT. We like to call them the millennials, but you realize the people who are growing up today were born in the computer age. They've started getting into the business world, and they have been using a phone, using a computer since birth. They know nothing else. So they're expecting to come into the workplace and expect that they will find the technology that they're accustomed to working with at home, at play. They expect that same level of technology and work. So we're now finding this term called consumerization of IT, where the future of technology in companies is not being driven by the IT folks anymore, but by the people who are coming to work saying, I want to work with this technology because I am comfortable with this technology. So consumers are now driving the way IT has to run. Ecosystem of computers, there's a computer everywhere. I've just recently seen a refrigerator that tracks barcodes coming in and out the fridge that says, you know, you take the box of milk out, it logs it. Put it back in, it logs it. When you don't put that milk carton back into the fridge, it adds it to its grocery list, and you can decide if you want the fridge to dial the grocery with your list, or you will decide when you want to send the grocery list and have delivery. So we're seeing computers literally in everything. When we launched Windows 8 a couple of months ago, there were already 1,700 footprints running Windows 8 in some form or fashion, whether it's a tablet, it's a desktop, whatever it is. 1,700 devices already running this operating system. And cloud computing, for those of us who grew up in the industry, who have gray hair like me or no hair like me, you know that we used to have these things called mainframe computers, and we all used dumb terminals out at the other end for people who needed access to systems. And now the world has taken almost a 360 degrees, and we're going back to big centralized mainframe systems, albeit run at a lower cost entry point and providing a lot more power and capability with cloud computing. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because it's very important about how that's affecting Bermuda already, and where we're going to go next. Am I doing something wrong here? Okay. So just throwing some statistics up on where we see the trend, how these trends that I've talked to you about, and how we see them affecting how we go next. It's estimated that there will be a billion smartphones by 2016, 350 million of those being used at work. 82% of the world's online population engages in social networking, and 50% of enterprise and customers are on the road to the cloud. These are very interesting statistics because you take, for example, the phones. You realize that if you have so many phones out there, you are going to have to start catering for that population, that user base out there who wants to get access to information on their phones while they're mobile. You have to get access to the social networking sites. How many of us have kids in here? Couple of folks. How many of your kids read the newspapers? Where do businesses do a lot of advertising today? We've got to start thinking about where you even put your advertisements depending on the audience that you want to attract. Okay? So what's driving this pace of change today? Well, we call it the very much smarter consumer. And of course, the technology has become affordable and easily available. No longer technology is being driven out of people wearing white coats in a glass-walled room. Technology is available at our fingertips. We, the consumer, now have a lot of that power in our hands. And obviously it's the technology, it's the things like are available on the social networking sites, the access to information. Let's give some examples of, you take a company like Amazon. Amazon started 9, 10 years ago, I think it was, being a seller of books on the internet. Today, what is Amazon? The world's largest retailer, selling everything but books. Okay? You take, let's look at radio. It took 38 years to reach 50 million users of radio in the world. 38 years. It took 9 months for Facebook to reach 100 million users. So we've got to start being not alarmed, but start understanding that this is what's coming, this is what's happening to us around here. And I'm sure this is not news to you. You've seen it coming. I'm just going to use the... We've got to see how these trends are going to affect us. Let's look at a couple more trends. 85 billion applications have been downloaded on the phone in the year 2013. How many people are around the world today? 7, 8 billion? 10 billion? You divide that by 85 billion applications and you realize that many people are using many applications. They're looking for applications to run on their devices, and that's what we're seeing as a major trend. Social networking sites, everybody expects that they will have access to a social networking site, and this is why I'm showing you this is because we're going to go full circle to show you how it's affecting what technologies are coming for you available in your end user applications, the things that you do at home, because all of this is what we're looking at coming down the pike in order to build what's coming next. So what I wanted to talk quickly about is big data. As I said, every device, every smart device that we have today is spewing data at us. IT folks can no longer just say, I'm going to have my annual growth is 20 megabytes or 20 gigabytes per month or per year. Data is just coming to us fast and furious. And now we have something called structured data and unstructured data. What do I mean by that? Long ago, we used to be very, very, very succinct and say, okay, this is my data, it's built on file, and I have a record. But now we have unstructured data to us, like people send us a fax, people sending us or calling into our customer service area and leaving a voicemail and saying, and you want to be able to track those as companies to have a 360 view of the customer when they walk in. You want to have their computer records, but you also want to have what was the time that they called, what was their voicemail that they left you, and you also want to have a track of what faxes that they have sent you. So we're having a number of instances where we have structured data and unstructured data that you as a company have to keep a track of because your customer expects you to. So Microsoft is looking at embracing these trends and seeing how we're going to build our software and how we're going to build technology for what's coming next. So mobility, we have things like the portability of laptops and Surface devices, phones. To do the social, we have Office that now has a social component. We've acquired Skype, and whenever I say the word Skype, somebody in the audience is always going to ask me, will Skype continue to be free because Microsoft has taken it? Anybody? Any takers? The answer is yes, Skype continues to be free. Please don't record me. It's going to be free. The enterprise version of what we call IP communications. There's always going to be another product called Microsoft Link. Just to make sure you understand, Skype is open to the public. Your files are unprotected, are not encrypted. So those are the things that you have with a consumer piece of software like that. It's for free, so there's not going to be a lot of advice. But I do have people who have federated Skype with Link, and now they're able to run things like communications internally in their companies and have their customers using Skype to call into the company for free, and therefore they're able to do things like great customer service. Yammer, Microsoft acquired a social networking company called Yammer, which we've now included in SharePoint 2013, and Mike will talk a little bit more about how we can use social networking. And then big data is handled by something called SQL Server 2012, and there's a technology called Hadoop, which is really the ability to get that big data that I was talking about. It's an open source platform that Microsoft has incorporated in SQL Server 2012, and it's going to allow you to use processing power across many servers to take care of your structured and unstructured data. Did I go backwards? I was just testing you guys. So I gave you these 4 platforms to think about: mobility, social, cloud, and big data. And you as businesses really have to decide how are these megatrends really going to be able to help you save money, drive innovation, grow business, and arm your customers. What do I mean by arm your customers? It's not gun control, or it's not a lack of gun control. It's that magic word called attract, retain, and maintain your customers. Because that's what we're in business for. You want to attract new customers, you want to retain your existing customers, and you want to be able to maintain them once they become your customer. Okay, so that's what we're seeing in the industry, and we're seeing all of the Fortune 1000, all of the Fortune 25,000, as I call them, starting to use these trends to decide what impact their developments, what their applications are going to look like to do this. This is going to be your eye test. If you can read some of these slides. Can we have this window come down a bit, you think? We think that applications that are going to be written from now on Thank you, sir. Okay, so we've dimmed the lights. There's going to be wine and candle light soon. We think that for mobility, we have to develop applications that are able to run on whatever platform a user wants to use the application. Let me say that again. We think that you have to develop applications that are concurrent or conducive to a user who wants to use any platform or any footprint to gain access to that data or applications. Think about a banking application. An end user wants to check his bank balance or do a transfer. He wants to be able to do it on his phone. Yes, he can do it on his desktop computer. Yes, he can do it on his home computer or laptop, but he wants the ability to do it from the phone also. So we've got to start designing applications. You look at big organizations like Bank of America, Citibank, all of them have those mobile apps, and you've seen the advertisements on television or on cable about scanning checks and doing deposit online and so. That's the way that we're attracting or maintaining, doing that ARM principle for our customers. So for those mobiles, we've got to develop applications, and you've seen that statistic that says we will have 85 billion. That's why that term has become so popular, that there is an app for that. Now, you still have to be very careful about which apps you download. There are inherent dangers that an application that you may use may be taking more stuff from you or from your computer than you're giving to it. We think that social networking obviously is going to be big. You are going to be able to connect and share with colleagues. That social networking is not meant for your friends and family only. You are able to use social networking within your organization. And I can give you a classic Example, since Microsoft acquired Yammer, we have been using social networking within our organization to talk to people who have the same type of interest. People need to help me technically, and sometimes I do need a lot of technical help, about talking about issues, not necessarily about, I went to a hamburger restaurant and I'm now putting ketchup and all those things that you see on a Facebook type of chat, talking things that are around the business and what we need to do. I've seen organizations who are using this social networking about finding people within the organization who may have expertise with a certain topic in order to be able to help. Cloud. Microsoft is one of the very, very few organizations who, as the cloud becomes more popular, we are going to give you the ability to have access to your cloud in three ways. One is going to be on-premise, which means that you've decided to run your public cloud, your private cloud on your premises because the data that you want to hold and maintain, you don't want it public. The Patriot Act in the US scares a lot of people off, especially government data, financial data, but they don't want their data held in a server, and there's an option for that. You can do your private cloud. There's the ability to go to the public cloud, and that's folks like, obviously, Microsoft is offering cloud, Amazon. How many people in here using the cloud? Fairly good people. People who have not put your hands up, any of you guys have been using Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail? So you've all been using the cloud, some form or fashion. Those of you with BlackBerry devices, you have been using the cloud. Guess where your data goes? Okay? So very interesting to see here that sometimes I do sessions and I say, how many people in here using the cloud? And 10% of the people put their hands up, not realizing that this is a technology that's 15 years old. We have been using the cloud for a while. I have many customers in Bermuda who were already signed up for cloud, and they've gone for something called a hybrid cloud because they're keeping data that they need personalized and secure on their own servers. And public cloud, Office 365 from Microsoft, not available yet in Bermuda, but they've signed up for those out in external countries, and they're using a hybrid solution. So the next question is when things like Office 365 or Microsoft's version of the cloud will be available in Bermuda. And the commitment so far is that we will have the cloud, that public cloud available in the June timeframe, June-July timeframe of this year. It hasn't stopped people and companies in Bermuda from using it. I do have huge companies here already, but the commitment that we're doing. Now you notice that all of these slides as we've gone along, I have been hitting you with some product information. This is not a product. I didn't want to do a product type presentation to you, but I wanted to show you that somewhere in the list of products that you will see that we are addressing the technology or the trend that I have been talking about. That's the purpose of it. We think that big data is here to stay. We think that we are going to be able to, we're going to have to embrace the processing of big data, making business intelligent decisions at a much lower level in the organization. So we think, for example, that our customer service representatives should have a 360-degree view of the customer when they walk into our premise, as opposed to business intelligence or the kinds of data you get on a customer being only held at the board level. We think that the interaction with a customer is always a frontline person, and that's the person who should have the most important information, or most of the information about a customer, because they're interacting with the customer every day. So it's how do you put access to that big data out there? How does the customer service representative know, well, the customer called yesterday twice and left voicemails and we haven't responded yet? Okay. So we think that the access to big data is going to be something, a trend that we have to look at. And we think that the technology is going to drive some of these experiences. Here's an example of Whole Foods in the United States using the Kinect technology, which you thought was only for gaming. But here we have a computer screen on the grocery cart, and it's making helpful suggestions to the customer while shopping that maybe this is such another good food for your diet, which you told me was 2,500 calories for the day. Okay, so we're doing pricing comparisons. Can you get something cheaper with the same number of calorie requirement? All of those things are appearing on the screen, and you actually have your bill long before you approach the cashier, and can actually pay for it also before you leave. Have to go to a physical cashier. These are some of the types of things that we're seeing in the technology. Right around to back to this thing called SharePoint that you're here today to talk with our partner Ignition, Silver Lake. SharePoint. A lot of you in this room have already used SharePoint. First came out in 2001, addressing a couple of things: search, document management, portals for your intranet. And gradually, we've improved on those technologies since 2001 to we're about to this year, SharePoint 2013, and our partners will talk to you some more about that later on, SharePoint 2013, and that's the new version of the product that's currently available. It's a new way of working together where you'll be able to bring the business productivity suite of the things like on the desktop, the things that you need interfacing with, either it's an intranet or your internet or your extranet for your suppliers and vendors. SharePoint is going to fill that gap for you very well. And for those of you who are interested in some of these things, Microsoft.com/SharePoint, you go there and you will see a couple of case studies, for example. Is David in here? David? I sent David, for example, this week, something that the government in Canada had done in Niagara, building a SharePoint site on 2013. I sent my friend something on the police service, the UK Constabulary. Just developed a major system for the police force there. And it's all about saving time and money at the end of the day, improving your customer service. So we have this thing called SharePoint 2013, and if I were to leave you with if you need to remember something coming out of these sessions, SharePoint is about 5 basic things. It's about sharing, it's about organizing, it's about discovering, building, and managing. And Mike is going to talk a little more detail about these, but let's talk briefly about what we mean by sharing. And it's really about sharing ideas. In a company, you can use a product or systems like SharePoint or things developed around SharePoint for ideas, the vision of the company, ECM, content management, all those kinds of things. And obviously social networking, because Yammer is built into SharePoint. Organizing, project managing your teams in a secure way, making access to information available to your entire company, because SharePoint will run on your intranet, will run on your internet sites, and will run on your extranet sites. Great thing about that is that I will talk about building this now, but it's the same application that's been used, or the same developer team that's been used can develop an application, and based on security levels, you can see different aspects of that application. Discovering, I gave you an example. If within Microsoft we use technology like this, somebody calls our help desk, and the person who is on the help desk doesn't know the answer, they're instantly typing a message out, or a message may come in by email, and it's an automated process. We have an expert answer system where I will use Yammer, use SharePoint to go out and find out of the 90,000 employees or 350 total FTEs and vendors that we have in the company, to find an answer. I can also go to knowledge bases to find specific answers if that's what I want to do, and I can find other information out of social connections that I may have within the company. So the bottom line for all of us who run organizations is really it's about managing costs, mitigating risks, making sure your information is secure, making sure that you're managing information rather than infrastructure. I need to say that again. The world is changing to where we need to get to the point that we're managing information rather than infrastructure. I think personally the role of the CIO in most organizations will change drastically in the next 5 to 10 years. Give you an example of that. If you're managing a cloud infrastructure, do you need an IT? Do you need a CIO? Do you need an IT manager? Do you need an operations director? We're going to the stage where IT becomes a utility. You pay for it, you don't use it, you use less this month, you pay less this month. That's the whole concept behind the cloud or having IT as a utility or IT up in the cloud. You pay for what you use. So I think a number of roles in organizations is going to change. I don't mean for you guys to start sending your resumes out, but you've got to start thinking about what's coming next, what's coming down the pike. Build, this is more on the developer side, building applications that run, as I said, on your different devices, building your applications for the cloud, building your websites, using things like ECM, which you will hear a bit more this morning, and building your applications for the future. You must choose operating systems, languages that are going to be around in 5, 10 years, that are going to be portable to what's coming next. I really can't sit here and tell you what's going to be the device that you're going to be using in 5 years' time. If you think you know, please also tell me what the lottery numbers are going to be. We think this is a new era for us in IT that's coming. It's a new era for Microsoft, as you would have seen from the slew of products. I want to make really one very strong emphasis. We are not an organization that's going to do it alone. Microsoft's business model is built on its partners. We have excellent partners in the room today who's going to take us through the rest of the morning's sessions and really deep dive and help you deep dive in how these kinds of technologies and what's available in things like content management, how you can actually use things like, say, SkyDrive Pro, the ability to move from device to device and be able to have access to your information. I'll give you one classic example of that. Do you know today that you can actually save like a Word document on your or be using Word on your computer at work, and you say, okay, I'm going to save this, and you have an option of saving it either locally on your computer or saving in something on what we call SkyDrive, which is just a storage up in the cloud. And you go to any other device after that, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, and you open up the Word document, and it brings you back exactly to the same point that you left it in the office. That's what you want to do. So that's where we're going to be getting access to information anytime, anywhere, any device.